accused of being a bad person because you're from the United States.
It started over a simple question of who you voted for. Your answer, obviously everyone knows that when you respond that way, we know who you voted for. Also, don't police another country at all. What they show on their TV, that's their country. Their political discussions, that's their right. You get to sit there and whine and show your fragility. So instead, sit down, shut up, enjoy your drink and the fact that you can visit said country. Man, I really hope you left and went back to America, because damn, no wonder people across the world hate Americans so much. And you call us sensitive and fragile.
We're entering the inevitable phase of where some people who voted for Trump and are MAGA feel ashamed of that and don't want to be open to public ridicule. We see it with all the influencers online who say, I don't want to get political. I don't need to tell you who I voted for. An American woman who is clearly MAGA and clearly voted for Trump went to Northern Ireland, of all places, and she was asked who she voted for, and she didn't answer. Check out her video.
Story time of why I felt uncomfortable and unwelcomed in the north of Ireland. I walked in with my husband to the central bar, and I immediately noticed that they had the world news on, rightfully so. There's a lot of crazy things going on in this world. Then the gentleman said, "Are you American?" And I said, "Yes, we're American." "Well, who'd you vote for?" And I said, we're on vacation. We're trying to get away from all of that. We don't really want to talk about it. And I did not know that that automatically meant, oh, you're a MAGA crazy Nazi. That the whole bar atmosphere just felt very, very hateful.
It's nothing out here that has changed. If anything is it went from worse to worse, sir.
Newsflash to anyone who is MAGA or a Trump supporter. We're used to you guys being loud, proud, and boisterous about your decisions to accept hatred, sexism, racism, pedophilia, all the above, all the isms. That's what you guys voted for. You should be screaming it from the mountaintops. You're in Ireland and you called the Irish the UK. And then you said you don't want to get political. Ireland's entire existence is extremely political. Literally, they are in an active occupation and colonization by the Brits, who are the Protestants who were placed in Northern Ireland. So for you not to know your facts about where you were and then not answer as to who you voted for, I don't want to get political. You gave them two ammos for them to not be welcoming to you. Why would I be welcoming to someone who is actively supporting the man who is destroying the world? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Do you have any idea who the Irish are? The Irish are fighters, freedom fighters, to say the least. Have you not seen how the Irish government has talked about what's happening in Israel and Gaza? Have you not heard or learned about how the Irish fought for their freedoms and fought the royal family over the centuries? You are really living up to the name Dumb American, and you really, really made multiple videos. And then she's even pulled the whole white woman tears thing, like, oh, I got treated so bad in Ireland and so hateful, because you're a bigot, racist person who voted for the man that the majority of the world does not like. Do you think the majority of the world likes any of the fascist leaders that are in power right now? Really?
I'm obsessed with the videos of Europeans asking Americans who they voted for. They're on the right side of history, and I feel like as an American, if that upsets you or offends you, we know who the you voted for.
That thing about the American woman who came to a pub in Cushendall and was met with hostility when she refused to discuss who she voted for in the American election, I find it really interesting. Because that woman and a lot of Americans, I think, have this idea that they're entitled to travel and not be met with these political discussions because they're irrelevant or it's rude to discuss them. But what they don't appreciate is that people in Europe, people in Ireland, for instance, have to deal with the direct consequences of the American election, but they don't get a vote. So when you travel outside your borders, you go to a place like Ireland and you meet people who didn't have a say, but are having to deal with the consequences of things like tariffs, things like Palestine, the Russia-Ukraine war, and sort of oil prices because of Iran, and even not being able to fly across the Middle East currently. All of these chaotic things that could have been avoided. I think we're going to see it more and more that American tourists, when they travel outside of the US, are going to have to reckon with it a lot more than they used to, because the politics really affect everyone, not just them, and they're kind of going to be held to account a bit.
So this conversation is started by a woman in Ireland. She's an American citizen that goes to a pub in Ireland, and all of a sudden the conversation shifts. Like the atmosphere shifts. They start talking about politics. They ask her some questions. Who did you vote for? Yada, yada, yada. She gets pissed off and she walks out. That tells you a lot. Most American people ain't happy about who they voted for. Because if they were, they wouldn't be upset when Europeans ask them who they voted for. And why is it that most Europeans are the ones that have this courage to ask Americans who exactly they voted for? We're going to talk about all of that in a bit, but right now I just want to play you all the clips that we have for you concerning this American lady that walks away from a pub in Ireland because the political scene just gets uncomfortable for her, because the people there ask her who she voted for, why she voted for him, isn't she getting affected by the tariffs or everything that that he's imposed on other countries? Because let's just face it, the world right now is just panicking because of what the Trump train has done or what he hasn't done. Gear up to get on a deep dive on this conversation with us and just let us know what you think in the comment section. What do you think? Do you think most American citizens that voted you-know-who and proud of their decision? Because if they were, they wouldn't be walking away in pubs from Ireland.
Is it safe to travel as an American right now because the rest of the world hates us? Did you see the video of the American woman in Ireland? Now, she goes on to say that the bartender recognized she had an American accent and then asked, oh, you're from America, who'd you vote for? And here's the thing, okay? The Americans need to understand the rest of the world does not like Trump, okay? Trump is actually, and this regime is doing a lot of damage across the world. We're the bullies, all right? So as long as because I've traveled quite a bit since the Cheeto's been back in office. And every time somebody asks, like, are you American? I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry. You just apologize for it. And then they're like, oh my God, I feel so bad for you. Like, that's like, pity is usually the sentiment you get. They don't hate you unless you're like, oh yeah, no, I voted for this. I'm really excited that this is happening. This is what I support. Then yeah, you are a bad person. And yeah, they're going to not like you. You're probably not going to be welcome. So if you're worried about traveling abroad and because of Trump and you're American, just as long as you're a good person, didn't vote for him, just tell people that and everyone will be very kind to you. But nobody likes Trump. And I know that the right really thinks that the world loves Trump too, like they do. And no, it's just this little cult that they have.
Being asked who you voted for is not a crazy question. It's not a crazy question. And I think if you are an American and you are traveling this year, you need to be prepared to answer these types of questions. This woman seemed very defensive and she was like, oh, we're just trying to escape the bad vibes, and wasn't really clear about who she voted for. And I think you should just be honest, or be prepared to have a discussion with people. Europeans are very curious about politics in the United States. They are very well educated on it. I have friends here who are from all over the world who are much more educated on some of the things happening in the US than I am, and I'm very politically involved and literate. And they are very involved and very curious, and they want to hear your experience. It's not from a place of judgment or being mad at you. They genuinely want to know. I mean, if you voted for Trump, yeah, you're probably gonna have a little pushback, but what did you think?
That moment when you go into a Northern Ireland bar and are immediately accused of being a bad person because you're from the United States.
I watched all 10 minutes, so you don't have to. And I'll lay the groundwork for where we are in the story much faster than she did. So her and her husband are vacationing in Ireland. They walk into an Irish pub. There's a table that looks like it's open next to a fireplace. So she asks a man that's close to it, hey, is that table open? He says yes, and then this happens.
And the gentleman said, are you American? And I said, yes, we're American. And I'm not lying to you when I say it instantly went from, yes, I'm American, to, well, who'd you vote for? And I kind of was just shocked. I'm like, wow, that was very direct.
I'm honestly not sure what's so shocking about that because, like she said, the news was playing up above the bar. So the whole world sees what the hell's going on right now. And the whole world thinks this entire administration is And I can vouch that people all over the world are asking that question, who did you vote for? This was my family and I in Greece last year, and also in Paris during the same trip. And yes, we were asked that question more than once. The difference is the question didn't bother me because I know that I didn't vote for this.
I said, we're on vacation. We're trying to get away from all of that. We don't really want to talk about it.
There's only one reason that somebody does not want to talk about it, and that's because you voted for it. That's literally it. That's the only reason. The second somebody says, oh, I don't want to talk about it, or, oh, this is sensitive, we know who you voted for.
I did not, blah, 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 blah.
Yes, you did, which is why you didn't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about that. It's uncomfortable.
I would be very uncomfortable also if I had to tell somebody that I voted for everything that's going on right now. So I get it, but that's also your fault. Luckily, I won't have to know what that's like.
Why would you want, especially while drinking, why would you want to talk about something so sensitive with complete strangers while you're a guest in their country?
Because the whole world wants to know when they see you in their country, hey, did you vote for all this tragedy and all this garbage that we see going on in the United States of America? They don't want it there. And I'll say during our trip to Europe, we never ran into any problems. People loved us. We loved them. We had a great time. Everybody was awesome. And yeah, we were asked that question numerous times, and I was more than happy to tell them I voted for her. I did not vote for this. Case closed.
If I were the Trump train and I was like watching these videos and just seeing the people's reaction towards when they voted for me and how other people are reacting to how they voted or why they voted for me, I wouldn't be feeling so proud of myself. But let's face it, if it is who, then he doesn't really care, I guess. And have you seen the video that is like going viral about him, like, I don't know, a decade ago, talking about how he was gonna invade Iran and take Iran's oil? Yeah, that video is resurfacing, and people are just questioning the narrative of whose actions towards Iran and his approach towards this conflict. It could actually be intentional. And in another video, that's the reason why I said the Trump train is one of the most intentional business people in the business world. He doesn't act without thinking it. I mean, it might look as if he doesn't know what he's doing, but trust me, to amass millions, billions, to create empires of business like the way he's done, obviously he's being intentional with every geopolitical narrative that is given us so far. Now, let's talk about why there's a significant difference to the approach of the Trump train to the relationship that he has with Europe compared to his predecessors. When we talk about people like Barack Obama, JF Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, these people had a good relationship with European countries. They were allies. In fact, they are one of the few presidents that established a successful allyship with European countries. Compared to the Trump train, he looks at European countries as competitors instead of allies, and that's where the difference is. And that is the reason why I think a lot of Europeans might feel poised. They might feel like they just have this duty to question why a lot of some US citizens voted the way they did. Trump has moved away from the post-World War II narrative of a friendly empire that the land of the free had with Europe. They had this term, they coined the term to just describe their relationship. It was called friendly empire. Now he's moved to a more imperial hegemony, I guess, which is cohesive in a sense. And that is just to say that it's not smooth, like it hasn't been smooth. He just looks at it as, we did something together in the past, but that doesn't guarantee us a successful relationship. In fact, I'm going to impose some tariffs on some of your goods, just to show you that I really mean what I'm saying. And that's what he did. In fact, that is why Trump is the first US president in history to view the European Union as a competitor instead of an ally, which is different from his predecessors who prioritized, American-European relationships, and they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't make a decision without like having, a meeting with the European Union and so on and so forth. So he has this sort of tense relationship with European allies. And to make matters worse, he has questioned the NATO commitment, like he's questioned their commitment towards or putting Americans first. Like for him, it's always about America. It's always about the land of the free. You understand? So he questions the whole narrative of NATO and how they're actually helping the land of the free in the long run. That's one of the reasons why there is a global disruption towards, the economy of the world, because it's not just the land of the free that we're talking about at this point. Even European countries are being affected with the tariffs that is imposed on the world and on some of their goods. He has also questioned the defense spendings of European allies, and there's also been a significant downturn in 2026 between the relationships of the land of the free and those of European countries. And some observers have described this as one of the lowest points in the transatlantic alliances. Okay, let's just simplify it like this. You remember during colonialism, right? When Europe amalgamated its forces and came to Africa to sort of just establish colonies here in Africa, right? They did that successfully, and America was one of those countries or nations that Europe actually just helped to establish in the process of doing that, because the land of the free at that time wasn't like an established nation. You understand? So Europe, sort of through this slave trade, also enabled Americans to have access to the slaves that managed to, to create the land of the free and to make it the nation that it is. Hence, creating an alliance or a relationship that would foster prosperity for all these nations that are involved in this imperialism, right? Then Trump comes in and he just says, that was in the past. So I'm looking at what we have right now at hand. What are you doing for the land of the free that should enable me, or at least that should make me prioritize our relationship? I think that's just to summarize the relationship of Europe and the land of the free in a nutshell. I don't know if that was a nutshell for you, but you let me know what you think. And you can also just leave your own thoughts in the comment section and let us know what do you think about this narrative of this lady that went to a pub in Ireland and got irritated because they were questioning who she voted for. We all know who she voted for. It's obvious from the videos that we've seen. But leave your own thoughts in the comment section, and I will see you in another video. Don't forget to like, to share this video, and subscribe.